Welcome back, everyone. This will be my full Miss Marvel Episode 6 finale video. There were a bunch of Easter eggs and references to everything that's happening in Marvel Phase 4 right now, and a bunch of big reveals, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, Marvel Comic-Con is also happening next week. They're going to be releasing a bunch of big trailers. Of course, I'll do videos for everything, like the Black Panther 2 trailer is probably going to be their big reveal. We'll also probably get a preview for the Captain Marvel 2, the Marvels movie, which is where Miss Marvel is going to appear next. Maybe for Ant-Man 3 Quantumania as well, because that's coming out in February next year. Careful for spoilers for the episode if you haven't seen it yet, because there is a bunch of X-Men stuff that we have to talk about too. Like, they literally play the X-Men the Animated Series theme song during the episode to let you know that she is basically the next new mutant inside the MCU.
Mild shock.
Which is probably the biggest surprise of the episode. Like, you kind of know where the Miss Marvel character is going if you've read any of her in the comics or you even have a broad idea about the character. The big twist is making her a mutant inside the MCU. And speaking of mutants, X-Men stuff, they are doing a revival series for X-Men the Animated Series. Like, they are doing more episodes. They're bringing a preview for that, probably a trailer or something like that, to Comic-Con next week. I'll do a video for that too. There are a couple big Disney Plus Marvel series that are going to have trailers next week too, but mostly people are just thinking about all the Marvel movie trailers. It's just a coincidence that they make the big Miss Marvel X-Men reveal this week, and then next week we also get a brand new X-Men trailer of some kind. But we'll just start at the beginning of the episode, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs, WTF moments, the X-Men of it all. Starting with the episode title, No Normal, which is meant to be a reference to Kamala Khan's message to Kamran when she's talking him off the metaphorical ledge so that he doesn't turn into a full-blown villain inside the MCU. And just for reference, because she is also a mutant in the MCU now, that would make him one too, because he's basically the exact same as her. And just for reference, I don't think this will be the only way that they explain mutants inside the MCU. The term mutant is a little bit different from the term X-Men. Traditionally, you would consider mutants to be characters who are born with their powers and born with the X gene. That's why I think they specifically played the X-Men the Animated Series theme song instead of just calling her a mutant and leaving it at that. Like, if they didn't want you to think about X-Men, they wouldn't have played the X-Men theme song. The whole message that she gives to Kamran about being a good person is also meant to be a callback to the message that the Sheik gave her about what it really does mean to be a good person in this life. The actual opening scene is of Damage Control investigating the destruction of Bruno's shop, RIP to the Circle Q. After the death of Kamran's mother, after she recants, after she kind of redeems herself a little bit, sacrificing herself to save the MCU, Damage Control becomes the biggest villain in the series. And if you really want to get technical and point the finger, it'd actually be Agent Deeper who you'd blame for all this. She'd be the one to take the L for Damage Control. They kind of make the Damage Control agents seem incompetent during this episode. They're kind of like the worst version of stormtroopers that you see all the jokes about from Star Wars movies. But that's mostly because they were using non-lethal rounds and they didn't actually want to kill any of the kids. Like, they wanted to take them in without hurting anyone. It's not really till the end of the episode when things really go off the rails when they start using live rounds against them. If they had started doing that, this would have been a very short episode. But if it wasn't clear, all this tech that Damage Control is using is based on Stark Tech. Like, they have the Stark Tech drones that Iron Man created, and all those pulse weapons that they're using would be based on Stark Tech as well. I'm sure whichever version of the afterlife that Iron Man went to, because he is kind of an atheist, whichever alternate dimension, he's rolling in that metaphorical grave watching all this happen. When Bruno and Kamran are escaping on the subway, it seems like there's also Hindi characters written on the windows in graffiti. If you think you know what that says, write that below in the comments. There's also an ad right next to them that they pass by that says "You won," which foreshadows the ending of the episode, because they kind of wind up winning at the end of the episode. They all kind of get what they want. Kamran goes through a speedrun version of what Miss Marvel went losing control of his powers while he's trying to figure out exactly what went on. You do hear his mother's voice calling to him from his powers when they go crazy, but I think that's because of the genetic connection that they're trying to draw to his mother. Like, his mother's remaining life force, like whatever remnant of her was left, activated his powers. So literally, like, a piece of her is alive in him. But it's kind of like this echo after effect. They play what sounds like a Hindi pop song under the Marvel Studios intro scene, and they actually just had a brand new Marvel title sequence in Thor Love and Thunder. The newest one in Thor Love and Thunder also includes a version of Miss Marvel wearing her first comic book accurate costume, but she will get a second one in the Marvels movie, like another brand new costume. That's also to let you know that the events of Thor Love and Thunder take place after the events of the Miss Marvel series. It's meant to be like the furthest forward we've been in the Marvel Phase 4 movie timeline so far. This is all happening after Spider-Man No Way Home and after Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. They have that funny scene where Kamala tries to tell the rest of her family the truth about the powers, and they just play it for a joke, kind of like the Friends TV series where everybody already knows the secret. Like, oh, this is brand new information. I'm learning this for the first time. I can't believe this. It's also meant to be a reference back to all the jokes about the father and the technology that Bruno upgraded for him, which they also use later when they're fighting damage control at the school, trying to distract everyone with the speakers. She calls herself Nightlight again. They call her Nightlight a couple times in the episode to set up the end of the episode where they eventually reveal the Miss Marvel name, which is also a big twist too, the way that they explain why she's called Miss Marvel. But the whole Nightlight joke is meant to be a callback to the Spider-Man Night Monkey joke. When her brother and sister-in-law ask all those technical questions about how her powers work, since the power comes from inside her now, the way they explain like the newer power, the bangle isn't technically necessary, it just enhances her abilities. Like the bangle itself does have special powers. But the way they've treated it so far, it's kind of like Thor's hammer Mjolnir, where it enhances her abilities, it has its own powers, but like Thor, for instance, doesn't need Mjolnir to use his regular powers. So she can run out of power, theoretically, if she were to expend too much effort and pass out. But technically her ability is meant to be limitless, it's just that when she passes out, she produces way less of the energy because she is passed out. The way her family reacts is kind of like the way that Aunt May reacts to Spider-Man revealing his powers, like concerned about their safety, but Aunt May, for instance, is generally supportive, so is her family. Just like in previous episodes, they have a bunch of custom versions of the Miss Marvel comic book logo for the title sequence cycling through, all meant to be references to things that happened during the episode. Like the yellow tape for Damage Control's yellow tape, the blueprints are meant to represent the plans to create her new comic book costume that her mother actually had custom made when they were back in Pakistan. This one is based on her Avengers fan films. The Captain Marvel fighting the Chitauri also meant to foreshadow the Captain Marvel cameo scene in the post-credit scene. Don't worry, I'll explain what happened during that later in the video, because it's basically Miss Marvel trading places, like teleporting with the actual Captain Marvel. Using the power of the bangle the way that it teleported her back in time, like a different version of that, teleporting them through space instead of time. There's the version of the high school jersey sweatshirt logo meant to foreshadow Damage Control attacking them at the school. The established 2014 is meant to be a reference to Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel #1 in the comics, the beginning of her solo comic book series. She was created by G. Willow Wilson. The comic book creator actually has a cameo scene at the end of the episode when they're doing all the video broadcasts of everyone that was there at the TAC. Like, this is the actual comic book creator, the Kamala Khan Miss Marvel character. Technically, her first appearance was in August 2013 in Captain Marvel #14. The neon sign is for the Circle Q, RIP, because it just got blown up by Damage Control. The yellow one is for the school bus because Damage Control coming to the school. The cast with the drawings, the messages to get well soon, I think is for Bruno's or someone else's injury during the episode. The old-timey digital one is actually an Easter egg for Captain Marvel's souped-up space pager that we saw in the Avengers Infinity War post-credit scene that Nick Fury pulled out, meant to also foreshadow her cameo scene at the end of the episode. The police car one is for the end of the episode as well, when the cops actually wind up helping Kamala Khan against the Damage Control agents. The one with the airport arrivals and departures is representing her coming back from Karachi because one of them literally says Karachi on it. This one is based on all of Miss Marvel's doodles of them having fun times together at the celebration that the Sheik holds after they beat Damage Control at the end of the episode. Then this one was based on all the drawings that came from her imagination when they were walking and talking about what to call her and what to base her powers on, like all the mashups and combinations of Captain Marvel with other Avengers characters. Like, this was the princess version of Captain Marvel, this was a version of Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange, Captain Strange. This one was Black Panther and Captain Marvel, Captain Panther. There actually is a crossover between those characters in the Ultimate comics too. Even though, obviously, Chadwick Boseman passed away, hopefully they'll find some way to do a version of the Ultimates, like they'll introduce Blue Marvel and some of the other characters for that. Then the last one is just an explosion of her newer energy, referencing the way she uses her powers in a bigger way during the ending of the episode. They show you all the Captain Marvel fare all over her bedroom. It's all meant to be comic book panels, like actual comic book panels of Captain Marvel herself, and also artwork of the Captain Marvel movie, like actual posters from the movie, just to foreshadow her cameo scene in the post-credit scene. Like, oh yes, she is a big Captain Marvel stan, there's a lot of Avengers fare around here, but we're also having a big cameo scene at the end here. They revealed that her mother had her comic book accurate costume made for her while they were still in Karachi on the DL. There must have been a short time jump too, where she had time to actually have it made. That's why it's in the toffee box that her grandmother had been keeping for the mother all those years. Like, oh, I kept them around in case she ever came back. She incorporated Red Dagger's red scarf that he just gave to her. She bases her symbol on the Arabic version of her name from her broken necklace that she always wore. And this has obviously always been the Miss Marvel logo, so I think this is them basically trying to create a bigger backstory for why her logo looked like this. The way that they also reveal her using the Miss Marvel name is also a bit of a change from the comics, but they try to give it a little bit more meaning. Like, they actually say that her real name, Kamala, is based on Marvel, so it's almost like her real name is Miss Marvel. Like, it's not a fake made-up name inspired by Captain Marvel, although she is a Captain Marvel stan. Like, her father says her name Kamala is based on Kamal, which translates to Marvel, so she is literally Miss Marvel. She's also using the mask that Bruno gave to her as a gift, and the blue in her uniform is made from the blue cloth that the other leader, the Red Daggers, gave to her. So the whole costume is just meant to incorporate all these different items that have been really personal to her. When they revealed her costume, she's also sitting underneath the Captain Marvel poster. That's actually based on a comic book panel in real life, like it's actually from the comics. They had the funny montage with her hopping across the traffic in the air, trying to help Kamran, and then stopping for the red light, because they want to show that she's a really good person, sort of foreshadowing the end, making Damage Control seem even more like the villains. Like, she's willing to follow the letter of the law, but Damage Control is not. That was also what they were trying to go for with the whole vibe at the mosque, where Bruno takes Kamran to try and seek some sanctuary, and Damage Control steamrolling through a lot of those regulations. What the Sheik says to Kamran as they leave is also meant to inspire him, along with Kamala Khan's help at the end of the episode, so that he doesn't wind up completely destroying this entire MCU reality. Theoretically, if he'd gone off the rails, the whole idea is that he would have opened up another portal through the veil, and the clandestine dimension would have eventually absorbed the regular MCU dimension, like what almost wound up happening in last week's episode. The whole thing with Zoe already being there and running up trying to help because she was trying to get better posts because of the lighting in the theater room is them kind of bending over backwards. Like, a lot of the way that this comes together is very convenient. And the way they play her in the series is a bit like her comic book arc. Like, she starts out being kind of a mean girl, but then she winds up becoming good friends with Kamala, and there's this big story in the comics about her coming out, which they kind of reference in the episode. Like, when she talks about Kamala revealing her truth to the world on her own time, that's meant to be a reference to Zoe in the comics coming out. She does another version of her planning montage with the drawings on the board, like she goes full Charlie Day meme drawing on the board, just like she did when she was trying to get into Avengers Con. That a lot of this montage is meant to be very reminiscent of the Spider-Man films and them going full science bros. Like, it's kind of like Spider-Man No Way Home with the chemistry scenes, except obviously the stakes here are very, very ground level by comparison. Like, the whole energy here with the finale is supposed to be more like what was happening during Hawkeye and during Spider-Man Homecoming. Also, because they just released Thor Love and Thunder, the whole whiteboard sequence is similar to the Thor Love and Thunder scene of Meek basically drawing the entire plot of the movie on the board. They set up the whole runner with what happened to Kamran's mother and him learning the secret to try and push him over the edge at the end of the episode. Like, early on, Bruno's like, please don't tell him. This is like the worst possible time to tell him something like that. As I kind of explained, like, he starts to go off the rails. Theoretically, if he got even worse, like if he went even crazier, he'd open another portal to the clandestine dimension, and the exact same problem that happened in Karachi would happen again here. Zoe uses her social media accounts to get the rest of the public in the area to show up, outing Damage Control's actions to the public. It's sort of like them pulling a reverse J. Jonah Jameson Daily Bugle on them. Like in the Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, they use J. Jonah Jameson's broadcast and Mysterio's video with the whole world learning about it to turn on Spider-Man. This time they do the reverse, and it's all truthful stuff, like it's all stuff that's actually being done by Damage Control, revealing it to the world. When they have some of the brief scenes of Kamala Khan versus Kamran, she uses some of her comic book abilities, but obviously in the way that they've explained with her newer abilities. Like, she embiggens herself. She literally actually uses the word embiggen later in the episode too. And if we're talking about X-Men Easter eggs here, because there's so many X-Men Easter eggs towards the end of the episode, when Kamran exits the building to all the Damage Control agents and the guns, they fire on him. It's just like the classic X-Men scene of Magneto stopping all the bullets, except this time it's Kamala Khan stopping all the bullets with her newer shield. They also use this scene to show you more about how her powers work during battles like this. Like, they're not invincible shields. Like, the constructs she creates aren't meant to be invincible. It's kind of like Green Lantern rules. They're all based on her willpower, so like, the stronger, the more focused she is, the stronger her abilities are. But like, you can hurt them with sonic damage, with physical damage, with energy damage. They give her her own version of a get-up Spider-Man scene, like the Spider-Man Homecoming scene where he's almost down for the count and then has to rally. The whole arc here with Kamran coming back from the edge of darkness, her talking him down, was kind of predictable. It's kind of like a speed run version of his character arc. Like, wait a minute, I'm so pissed off about my mom, but now I'm not pissed off. They explain that he escapes through the sewer system back to Karachi with the help of the Red Daggers, and per the end of the episode, it sounds like he's just going to eventually start helping them. Agent Cleary, who's the supervisor of Damage Control from Spider-Man No Way Home, makes Agent Deaver take the L for the episode. They have the montage of all the locals who were there posting videos about what happened, and like I said, they do have the comic book creator of the Kamala Khan character, G. Willow Wilson, during this scene. They even have her weird school counselor making a video too. Even the sheik from the mosque posts a funny hot dog video. Hopefully this hot dog is halal. This little kid is also the same little kid that she saved at the mosque in that video a couple episodes ago. Presumably he also gave Nakia back her expensive shoes because he was revealed as the mystery shoe thief at the mosque. Then when she's eyeballing herself in the mirror, kind of being proud of the way that she looks, they also have a Captain Marvel poster from the movie nearby just to foreshadow the end of the episode with a post-credit scene. Bruno wearing the Caltech hoodie foreshadows him going to Caltech. The note that he leaves is for Kamala Khan telling him about his choice to go. Presumably if they do a season 2, he will be back, and I think that they will probably wind up doing some kind of season 2. Then they have the scene with her father basically giving her the Miss Marvel name effectively, or kind of explaining why she's Miss Marvel. She's the one that kind of connects the dots, but he's the person who literally says the name out loud first. Like, he is the first person in the series that says the name Miss Marvel. And like I said, it's all based on her real name. Like, Kamala is meant to translate from Arabic to Marvel, so she is literally Miss Marvel without having to ever connect herself to Captain Marvel, but she is a Captain Marvel stan, so it all just kind of works out in a really nice way. The ending scene of her sitting on the streetlight looking out across the water at the New York City landscape is right out of the comics, and they have the custom Newer Energy-based time jump transition, with Bruno trying to borrow Kamran's car. And like I said, he basically reveals that she is a mutant in the MCU. When he starts talking about her genes, he literally says the word mutation, and they play the actual X-Men the Animated Series theme song. They list it in the credits specifically, too. So even though they've kind of been back and forth about the way that Scarlet Witch is a mutant in the MCU, like Billy and Tommy are mutants in the MCU from WandaVision, this is like the first time that they've literally actually said someone in the MCU is a mutant. Like, he uses the word mutation in a way that you haven't heard in the MCU in previous movies. So just to be clear, she is not an Inhuman, she is a mutant. She's much closer to the X-Men mythology with the X gene. Like I said though, I don't think this will be the only way that they explain mutants in the MCU, because it's not like she's gonna suddenly have like 1,000 different kids herself. Because they just included all the X-Men Easter eggs in Doctor Strange 2, the multiverse is such a big idea, that's just another way that they're gonna explain mutants in the MCU. Like, Deadpool is going to come into the MCU eventually, but it's gonna be the Ryan Reynolds version from those original Fox films, so another multiverse explainer. I'm sure there are going to be 1,000 questions about this going into Comic-Con next week, but thankfully, we do have Comic-Con next week, and we will get some answers about all this and how it all fits together. Of course, I'll be doing videos for all that stuff when it drops. But then after they play the X-Men the Animated Series theme song, they also make an Avengers post-credit scene reference to the shawarma, saying they're going to get shawarma, and I think because they mentioned shawarma a couple times during the Miss Marvel episodes, I think this is the first series that's referenced that Avengers post-credit scene in such a big way. Then the actual credits are meant to be a combination of the Karachi end credit scenes and the regular Jersey City ones from the previous episodes, which are just a combination of different comic book art. Like, all the drawings that you see are literal comic book panels taken out of the Miss Marvel comic book. They also bring back the Hawkeye Tracksuit Mafia Easter egg with a Tracksuit Bros van in Jersey City, so Kingpin is out there, watch out for him. But then during the actual post-credit scene, you see her looking at her bangle, and it starts to go off while she's thinking about Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, and the bangle in combination with her powers kind of does the same thing that it did when it sent her into the past previously. Except this time, it teleports her and Captain Marvel across space instead of across time, with them kind of swapping spots. So like, this is actual Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, now in this young girl's bedroom, not having any idea where she is or why she's in this girl's bedroom. She doesn't know anything that happened during the events of the series about Kamala Khan herself or the alternate clandestine dimension. So like, she's freaking out here like, what is going on? And you have to imagine that somewhere else, either on Nick Fury's space station or wherever Captain Marvel was, like in Kree Skrull space on the other side of the universe, Kamala Khan is also freaking out going, wait a minute, what's going on here? Who are all these aliens? Where am I? But the way they play it, Kamala Khan wasn't trying to use her powers or wasn't actively trying to do anything with the bangle. Like, this happened because of something that the bangle wanted to happen and that she was subconsciously thinking about. Obviously meant to be a teaser for the Marvels movie, because right after this, they have a stinger scene where it says Miss Marvel will return during The Marvels. We might get a preview or some kind of teaser for that during Comic-Con next week in Marvel's big panel, but I think the big main attraction is going to be the Black Panther 2 trailer, because like, that's the next big Marvel movie, and then Ant-Man 3 Quantumania with Kang the Conqueror will be the next movie after that in February. Whatever they wind up releasing, of course I'll do a video for it. The Marvels movie isn't coming out till November next year in 2023, so it's going to be a while. But if you spotted any big Easter eggs or references during the episode that it didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments, or if you have big questions about her being a mutant or the way that they're explaining this. I do have a bunch of Comic-Con videos planned for the next week or so. I'll try to do as much stuff as possible because there's going to be a lot of big stuff that they'll reveal, a lot of big trailers. While you wait for everything, everyone click here for all my Thor Love and Thunder alternate ending and deleted scenes, and click here for my brand new Loki Season 2 first look teaser and breakdown. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.